As we know, Putin continues on with his attacks. We've seen that Biden has offered hundreds of millions of dollars in assistance, but will that be enough? A lot of people are saying that it's just too late. We're just trying to play catch up here.
Well, I would remind people that it was President Trump who started giving lethal weaponry to the Ukrainians when he was in office. We couldn't get anything but blankets and humanitarian aid under Obama, and President Biden, quite frankly, was foot-dragging. And now that Putin has been the aggressor here and egregiously and brutally attacked Ukraine, it's trying to get those weapons in there is a massive undertaking. And listen, I heard President Zelensky's speech. It's a very moving speech. There was a very graphic video. There's no question in my mind that there's a lot of brutality going on over there against the Ukrainian people. When you see children and women, pregnant women, older senior citizens fleeing their country in Ukraine because of the bombardment that they're sustaining from the dictator Vladimir Putin. This is not out of character for him. This is a former KGB agent. This is a guy that is he's killed a lot of his adversaries over the years in brutal ways. So I think there's probably, it's hard not to say that there are war crimes that are transpiring in Ukraine right now at the hands of Vladimir Putin.
As you pointed out, women and children are dying. It appears civilians are being targeted, and that would be a war crime, and there should be a real and serious investigation. Now, really quickly, what were your thoughts on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's poem? I mean, again, we just have some really unserious people in charge, and it's just disturbing. I mean, why would she think that that's appropriate?
It's a mystery to me. I tell you what, the United States is in the hands of some authorities right now in this radical wing of the Democratic Party that is calling the shots, unfortunately, and we've seen the results of it. It's one self-inflicted crisis after the other at the hands of these radical Democrats. You know, look what we've done. Just in 14 months, we've gone from gasoline that was less than $2 a gallon, and now it's in some parts of the country it's $6-7 a gallon and heading north. Let me tell you something. When Texans are paying $4.50 a gallon for their gasoline, there is something wrong. We were energy independent. And let me just say this, energy independence is national security. We were a net exporter for the first time since 1949, I believe, Stephanie. And because of the policies of these Democrats and the Biden administration, now we are we are absolutely dependent upon countries like Russia. We are actually financing this Russian war against Ukraine because he's got us, Biden has got us on Russian gas and oil. It is time to unshackle Texas oil and gas producers, Louisiana, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, North Dakota, many states that produce oil and gas. We cannot afford to be dependent on dictators. And instead of coming to domestic producers that he has done nothing but just try to hurt the production of U.S. oil and gas production, he is going to the Venezuelan dictator, Maduro. He is going to the Iranians. Incredibly, he has got Russia negotiating between the United States and the Iranians. You can't make this stuff up. This whole thing about Ukraine and the invasion, I think, was started when these dictators, including Putin and President Xi from China, the Iranians, everybody else, it's the North Koreans, etc., when they saw the debacle, the total incompetent withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan. We were there for 20 years, and all of a sudden, he just pulled us out and left thousands of our allies in place there, thousands of American citizens, many of whom are still there. Let me tell you something. These dictators, these communist and fascist dictators around the world, they noticed that kind of stuff. They knew that that we had no leadership. We are a country of lions, but we're being led by a sheep, an incompetent sheep. And what you just said about the words of Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, it's incredible how we just simply are lacking leadership. We are a sheep being led by, we are lions being led by a sheep, and it is a tragedy to see this happening on the world stage.
You mentioned China, and we know that President Biden had a call with Xi Jinping earlier today, a 2-hour video call, and one of the topics, obviously, Ukraine and encouraging peace there. How concerned are you when it comes to China's relationship with Russia?
I'm very concerned because you have two of these major nuclear powers, and China is the second largest economy in the world today, who are teaming up really against the free world. And so I'm very, very concerned. And I want to help the Ukrainian people. There's no question about that. But we have to be very, very cautious. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. We want to get those people the weaponry they need, defensive weapons, to try to help control their skies. But at this point in time, I can't see the United States sending our own troops or trying to participate in a no-fly zone. I think that's a way to widen this war and into a conflagration that we might not be able to control. The next thing you know, we've got World War III on our hands. But this is not the time to acquiesce to dictators like Putin. He has absolutely illegally invaded his neighbor, and he is killing women and children. And I think it's there for all to see the brutality that is taking place there. So, yes, I think we have to be very cautious about who we're dealing with. And for Biden to now be running to the Chinese to see what they can do to help, I have nothing against negotiations and diplomatic relationships, and I hope that works. But I think he needs to remember that the Chinese were the ones that stood by the Russians after this invasion of Ukraine at the UN. And incredibly, I think he needs to remember who our friends are, and he needs to remember that America, if we're not the strongest nation on earth, we've got a lot of bad people out there that are willing to and wanting to take us down and our friends down as well. And without a strong, free America, we're in bad shape. And we don't have competent leadership at this time, and I think that's what worries a lot of Americans.
Yeah, it certainly does.